Hi guys, so welcome back to our introduction to Pandas series. So in the first part, we have created a Pandas series, right? So now the next thing we want to do is to break it down a little bit, right? You can see here we have our data underscore rows underscore series, which is basically the Pandas series we created, right? And you can see that we have this broken down in different ways. So we're just going to look at this in pretty simple fashion, and then we talk about the different parts of it and give it its name or the names that and just label the parts. But before I do that, let me recreate this. I like to recreate this, and so we can see that a series can be created in a different way. So I'm going to recreate this series. So that's what I'm going to do. So you're going to have two ways for which you can create your series. I'm forced to say this is like the traditional way to create a series. Yep. So how do we do it? Now, the first thing I'm going to do to recreate this series I have here is I'm going to give it a name. So again, this is data rules underscore series, and I'm going to give it 1. So it's like, make it different from the first one. So that's the variable name. Now I'm going to introduce PD, which is our pandas data frame. No, not our pandas data frame. Our pandas, basically our data analysis library. And I'm going to introduce series, which is the method that can be used to create a series. Now the first thing I want to do, I'm just going to put in this bracket here. Then I'm going to put in a list. Now inside the list, I'm going to have all these guys in here. So I'm just going to do this judiciously, take my time. First person. And so you see now I'm creating a list. The next, I'm just going to take the machine learning scientists, and I'm just going to introduce it here. See that we have this. Next, I'm also going to take the big data engineer, and then we're going to put it here. Right. So again, I'm going to take the product data analyst. So you basically see that you could create a list, traditionally we create a list this way, right? Then we'll finally have our machine learning engineer, right? And this is what we have. Right now, the next thing we'll probably want to do here is, after creating this, we'll come over here. Then we're going to give it a name, right? So we're going to call name, and initially here you can see it's job title. We're just going to replicate this. We're just going to call this job title. That's what it is, and I'll run this. And with this, we have a series. Now, similar to what we have done over here. Now, I'm going to now explain the labels. Now, if you look over here, you can see this numbering over here. Now, it's this leftmost column. It is called the leftmost column, which is the index, right? You can see it contains entry. It just contains entries for the index. Look at, so it's 5, 0 to 4, right? Now the index is not part of the values. So most times people think, wait, a series looks like it has two rows. No, 2 columns. No, it's not part of it. Pandas basically just works hard to the best effort to format it so that it will have the numbering, right? So again, this is a series. it's just one column that is inside. So this is just the index on the side. The index is not part of the values inside the column. It's just, yep. Now the index, yeah, so again, the generic name for an index. So here, the generic name for an index, and you're going to hear this a lot, is called an axis. Right, so it's an axis, right? And so the values that you see in the index, the values in the index are called axis labels. So I just want you guys to have that in mind. They're called axis labels, so you see that, right? Then obviously when you now come to the rightmost column, this is where you now see the values. It now contains the values. So again, now the rightmost column, and with the rightmost column, the values, these are the values in the series. So we call them the values in the series. So that's what we have. So all these data rows, that's what you have inside. So the difference between a series and a data frame is that the data frame has, it has two axes, which is one for rows and another for the columns. This just has one for columns. One final thing I want to say, and I mean, there are lots of stuff inside of it. There are lots of things inside of it we can look at. We can also look at the index. You just want to check out what the index, what the index is. You can just use the index attribute, and you can see it shows you the index. Right. An index can be, can also be string based. So index can be string based. So this is a thing. It can be string based. So you don't always assume that index, the index attributes must always be an integer. No, it can be string based, and I'll show you. That will be the last thing I want to do. So I'll just copy this. Let me see. So let me recreate this, but this time around, after recreating it, I'm just going to recreate the series with a string based index. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to introduce, so just to make it better, I'm just going to make this 2, and here I'm just going to call this, index, and with index I'm going to give everything a name. So I'm just saying data scientist here is Pablo. Just call a bunch of random names. The machine learning scientist, just think, what do I name the machine learning scientist? Okay, the machine learning scientist, I'm gonna call Kate. The big data engineer is Yomi. The product data analyst is Tawakalitu, and finally our machine learning engineer is Nosa. Right, so you see that's what we have here. So I'll run this, and once I have our data science data row series 2, you now see that we have, our index. Our index over here is string based. Also, if we look over here, you see the object type. It's the data type is object, and sometimes it could be a mixed bag of strings. It could be a mixed bag of alphanumeric type data type. So it could just Pandas just brings it out as objects. But yeah, so that's basically what we have. So take your time, watch this. This is the second part of introduction to series, and then we recreated the Pandas series, and then we looked at the different ways we could create a series one step at a time. And we can see that, and then at the end we understood that the leftmost column of a series is an index. It has a generic name for the index is an axis, and also understand that axis is different from axes, right? So there is axis and this, but that's a conversation for another day. So like, subscribe, share with anyone you know trying to understand data analysis using Pandas data analysis library.